Welcome back to our channel, where we share updates and untold stories about Catherine, Princess of Wales, and her royal family. Today, we bring you some news. Camilla in tears as palace releases, a final announcement over her title, marking her violation. Buckingham Palace has stated that Camilla, formerly designated as Queen Consort, has been legally divested of her title and responsibilities due to an internal crisis of monumental severity, causing significant upheaval inside the British monarchy and beyond. In a succinct late-night announcement that ended weeks of intense anticipation, the palace said she would henceforth be referred to just as Princess Consort. The relegation, an unprecedented disciplinary action in contemporary royal history, directly stems from a scandal that has profoundly unsettled the House of Windsor, the theft of the King's Welsh gold ring, a valuable artifact imbued with the legacy of succession. Confidential sources inside the royal household have revealed a narrative of treachery, ambition, and a contentious dispute that has irreparably damaged the relationship between King Charles III and his spouse. The issue, initiated by the enigmatic closing of Balmoral Castle, ended in a dramatic confrontation in which Camilla admitted to obtaining the ring not for financial benefit, but as a bold assertion of her authority and status within the royal hierarchy. The decision to demote Camilla was allegedly initiated by Prince William, the Prince of Wales, at a clandestine Privy Council meeting intended to safeguard the stability and heritage of the monarchy that his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth II, endeavored to uphold. As the dust settles, a king remains isolated, a former queen is banished from the seat of power, and the institution of the monarchy confronts its most severe challenge to public faith since the chaotic 1990s. This narrative transcends the simple disappearance of a gem. It encapsulates the disintegration of a crown burdened by human ambition and the sad conclusion of a love tale. Section 1. The Citadel and the Abyss. The first indication that something was fundamentally off came not from the opulent corridors of London, but from the fog-laden hills of Scotland. On July 15, 2025, in the soft golden light of a Scottish summer Balmoral Castle, the beloved sanctuary of the late Queen Elizabeth II suddenly closed its gates. The royal office's statement was abrupt and disconcertingly ambiguous. The castle will be closed to the public, effective immediately due to a grave incident concerning royal security. This was neither a standard shutdown for maintenance nor a special royal engagement. It occurred during the peak of the tourist season, when thousands of tourists were expected to traverse the grounds, their admission payments aiding in the estate's maintenance. The swiftly posted closed signs and the discreet retreat of public-facing personnel instilled apprehension among the local population and prompted a wave of concern across the kingdom. In the streets of London and the vibrant newsrooms of Fleet Street, murmurs started. A security breach at Balmoral, the refuge where the Queen spent her last days, seemed inconceivable. The conjecture was quick and fervent. A former Scotland Yard commander said on a TV program, "Royal security is the most stringent globally." The closure of an entire estate such as Balmoral implies that the threat is internal. It implies an internal treachery. Only days before, inside the majestic confines of Buckingham Palace, King Charles III had been striving to attain a sense of tranquility. At 75, the responsibilities of the crown, together with his recent recuperation from prostate cancer treatment, had inscribed fresh lines of adversity across his familiar visage. His eyes, sometimes imbued with a mournful gravity, seemed to encapsulate the reverberations of a tumultuous history, the specter of Princess Diana, the protracted and contentious journey to his union with Camilla, and the substantial burden he now shouldered. In his lavish private study, a room shielded from the outside by robust walls, antique tapestries, and Victorian furnishings, emanating the aroma of old wood and beeswax, Charles engaged in a personal ritual. In quiet times, he would connect with his ancestors via a singular, powerful symbol, the Welsh gold ring. The ring, fashioned from a nugget of pure, precious gold, sourced from the Clogau St. David's mine in Wales, historically a supplier to the royal family for a century, was more than just an accessory. It was a tangible representation of succession. It was transmitted from his grandfather, King George VI, the steadfast king who guided Britain throughout the Second World War, to his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, the symbol of stability for 70 years, and ultimately to him upon his succession. Adorned with a pristine deep green emerald, it was a personal crown, a testament to his vow. Due to security considerations and compliance with stringent royal etiquette, Charles refrained from wearing the ring at public occasions. It was stored in a custom safe hidden beneath the paneling of his study. Access was restricted to a privileged few, the king himself, and as a testament of profound trust, his wife, Queen Camilla. In tranquil mornings prior to confronting the unyielding obligations of his red boxes and official responsibilities, Charles would acquire the ring. He would slide it over his delicate finger, feeling its cold, solid weight a tangible link to the obligation he was destined to fulfill before stowing it away again. However, on the consequential morning subsequent to the Balmoral closure, the ceremony was disrupted. Charles accessed the safe, his hand extending towards the recognizable velvet box. His fingertips encountered only void. His heart started a rapid, furious rhythm against his ribs. A chilly perspiration formed on his forehead, sharply contrasting with the room's controlled temperature. Unfeasible, he set his voice a parched rasp. He searched through the safe, his hands shaking fervently, wishing it was only a misplacement, a deception of an exhausted mind. However, the stark reality of the vacant cubicle confronted him. The ring has disappeared. King Charles III, a figure who had endured years of public examination and personal misfortune, saw the throne beneath him quiver. He called his head of security, his voice unusually keen with escalating worry. A rapid confidential inspection of the whole palace was mandated. Elite guards, those trained to safeguard the nation's most exclusive secrets, traversed the hallways quietly. Personnel were interrogated, and every corner from the marble-floored staterooms to the seldom-accessed locked chambers was thoroughly examined. However, no evidence of the heirloom was found. The king's poise, already tenuous, ultimately shattered. In his study, he struck his fist on the old mahogany desk, the booming crack reverberating like a curse. "Locate it," he bellowed, his countenance suffused with a daunting amalgamation of fury and trepidation. "Obtain it at any expense. This transcends mere jewelry. It constitutes my legacy. This is my mother's inheritance." The turmoil, albeit confined inside the royal gates, started to spread like a covert infection, fostering mistrust and trepidation in every dimly lit recess of Buckingham Palace. Section 2. The unperturbed monarch and the path of indications. Amidst a tempest of orchestrated anxiety at Buckingham Palace, Queen Camilla exhibited an aura of tranquil poise. As counselors spoke discreetly, and staff averted their gaze, Camilla emerged for a prearranged charity engagement in downtown London. Attired in a sophisticated pale blue outfit, she radiated confidence for the cameras, her grin steadfast, as she greeted volunteers and engaged in casual conversation. To the public, she embodied royal elegance, seeming aloof from the turmoil occurring behind the scenes. However, experienced royal correspondents adept at detecting the most nuanced changes in the royal milieu saw a deliberate acuity in her gaze. She surveyed the throng with the concentrated attention of a chess player deliberating a critical move. During this visit, one of Charles's closest and longest-serving aides saw a detail that would subsequently become a vital component of the riddle. Camilla adorned her wrist with a dazzling bracelet, an atypical item absent from her public collection. The focal jewel, a dazzling emerald, closely resembled in shape and hue the one that had embellished the lost Welsh gold ring. Initially, it was a transient observation, although it would soon acquire unsettling importance. At the palace, the internal investigation was encountering several impasses. The vanishing was excessively meticulous, excessively adept. The first tangible evidence was provided by a devoted servant, Mr. James, who had been in the service of the royal family for more than 30 years. His silver-white hair and calloused hands, a testament to decades of devoted devotion, shook as he conveyed his findings straight to the king. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice trembling, "the mechanism securing your private study. New scratches are seen on the mechanism, subtle but present. It seems as if professional instruments were used rather than a mere key." Charles's complexion paled. He requested an expedited examination of all security camera recordings. The outcome was yet another setback. The advanced CCTV system, a multi-million-pound network intended for optimal security, strangely had a critical system failure over a 2-hour period on the night of the Balmoral shutdown. It constituted the only interval of inactivity in more than a year. "This is not a coincidence," Charles fumed, his fists tightening and relaxing. A security official provided unsettling intelligence. One of Camilla's close aides, a lady with regular access to the king's private quarters for schedule coordination, had suddenly departed the palace in the early hours after that night. She was seen carrying a tiny, tightly secured piece of luggage. The elements were starting to create a terrifying image. The manipulated lock, the non-functional cameras, the leaving assistant, and the emerald bracelet all indicated a perfectly orchestrated operation. At its core was the only person apart from Charles himself who was aware of the ring's whereabouts and had the means to recover it, his wife. The mistrust that had previously lingered as a mere whisper in his head suddenly erupted into a cacophony. He started to scrutinize all aspects, every recent dialogue, every gaze. Didn't Camilla just ask about enhancements to the royal security systems? Had she not characterized his emotional devotion to the ring as charming yet antiquated? The inquiry into a minor theft was swiftly evolving into an examination into a conspiracy originating not from an external adversary, but from inside the royal family itself. The dilemma was beyond the mere loss of wealth. It pertained to the essential erosion of confidence at the core of the monarchy. Part the third. A Queen's Gambit and a Title's Treachery. As Charles was engulfed in a maelstrom of sorrow and mistrust, searching for indications of the ring's whereabouts, Queen Camilla seemed to function on an entirely distinct parallel level. Her attention was directed not towards the absent heritage, but towards the consolidation of authority. The first public indication of her goal emerged in the digital domain. One morning, when Charles perused the official royal family website on his iPad, a little but significant alteration captured his attention. Camilla's title on her official biography page has been discreetly but notably modified. The meticulously assigned title, Queen Consort, specifically desired by the late Queen Elizabeth II to limit Camilla's function and placate a populace still affected by the legacy of Princess Diana, was altered to the single authoritative queen. Who had the audacity to undertake this? Charles vociferated at the morning meeting, his voice reverberating against the images of his forebears. His advisers were astonished. The alteration had not received authorization via any formal mechanism. It was a blatant and overt contravention of his mother's unequivocal desire, a desire established to safeguard the royal heritage and uphold popular opinion. For Charles, it was a very personal injury. He reminisced about the years of adversity endured to secure Camilla's acceptance and the protracted evenings confronting public and media censure. He had sacrificed a significant portion of his own notoriety to safeguard her and validate their connection. This abrupt change of title was a stark affront, a brazen assertion that his emotions and indeed his mother's last desires were of little importance. The problem intensified when Edward, one of Charles's most trusted aides during his tenure as Prince of Wales, was suddenly relocated. Edward, a guy with salt and pepper hair and a reputation for candor, had supported Charles throughout his most challenging moments. Merely days before, in a confidential meeting, he had cautioned the king. "Your Majesty," Edward said, his expression somber in the flickering light, "Camilla is not merely overstepping. I suspect she is establishing her own power base inside the palace. Her investigations into security precautions and her exclusive talks with media strategists indicate a systematic endeavor. I suspect this matter with the ring may be related. Failure to act will compromise the throne's authority from within." The admonition had unnerved Charles. Days later, Edward was abruptly reassigned to a ceremonial, ineffectual position in Scotland, adjacent to the enigmatically shuttered Balmoral Castle. The communication was unequivocal. A transition of authority was in progress, and those loyal to the king's traditional faction were being marginalized. The king faced Camilla at a strained private dinner. The flickering lighting created foreboding shadows on their faces, the lavish environment, a cruel parody of their broken closeness. "Are you familiar with the ring?" he inquired, his voice quivering with barely contained fury. What was the rationale behind Edward's reassignment without my approval? Camilla locked eyes with him, her smile tender but her stare icy. "My beloved, do you genuinely question my fidelity?" She responded in a tone that was pleasant and conciliatory. Edward was instigating superfluous difficulties. "My title was only an administrative modification to accurately represent my function. All my actions are for the benefit of the monarchy. We must innovate to endure." When Charles inquired about the ring once again, her avoidance was clever. She skillfully redirected the conversation to forthcoming charitable activities and the need to engage with a younger demographic. Her reluctance to provide a direct response, along with Edward's admonition and the alteration of the web title, reinforced a chilling notion in Charles's mind. The seed of doubt had grown into a toxic tree, rendering him more isolated than ever, a king besieged in his own palace by the lady for whom he had once risked all. Section 4. The Interview, the Shard, and a Monarch's Despondency. The situation erupted into the public domain on the evening of July 25, 2025. Queen Camilla made an unexpected appearance on a special live ITV broadcast without any previous notification from the palace. The action was a startling violation of royal etiquette. Such interviews often need many levels of authorization to protect the monarchy's reputation. Positioned in a well-illuminated studio, Camilla epitomized composure. She articulated her idea for a reformed and modernized monarchy with eloquence. However, her remarks about royal lineage resonated profoundly. "I contend that we should prioritize new values emphasizing service and connection," she said, her tone fluid and compelling. "We must not be constrained by antiquated symbols or become fixated on material possessions such as rings or crowns. Their worth resides in the past." To an uninformed audience, it may have seemed progressive. However, for Charles, observing alone inside his study, it was a declaration of war. She openly demeaned the source of his distress, prematurely characterizing the ring's loss as insignificant. The global media capitalized on it. "Camilla rejects royal legacy presents obstacle to Charles," proclaimed a CNN headline. BBC experts seriously deliberated her intentions. Was this a misguided effort to divert attention from an escalating crisis or a strategic maneuver to reduce the significance of the ring prior to the public revelation of its theft? Subsequent to the interview, Camilla disappeared for the night. The king's frantic calls remained unanswered, each ring a new pang of treachery. Unable to stay inside the palace confines, Charles ventured into the gardens. The late summer air was frigid, and a sharp breeze stirred the leaves of the venerable trees. Bathed in silvery moonlight, he seemed a specter haunting his own realm. It was at a remote side gate that a security officer made a significant discovery. Reclining on the moist grass illuminated by the moonlight was a little sparkling object, a fragment of emerald. The guard, sensing its potential importance, promptly informed the king. Charles grasped the fragment in his hand. His heart pounded against his ribs. The cut, color, and purity were an unequivocal match for the diamond on the Welsh gold ring. The picture of Camilla's new bracelet, worn so conspicuously only a week before, flashed in his memory. Did she attempt to extract the gem from the ring, maybe to affix it to her bracelet and inadvertently harm it in the process? Was this minute fragment discarded during a covert getaway or a failed effort to eliminate the evidence? The burden became overwhelming. Charles descended to the base of a bronze effigy of his mother, the frigid metal, a jarring juxtaposition to the fervor of his sorrow. "I have betrayed you, Mother," he said, his voice faltering as tears cascaded down his cheeks. "I received a warning. However, I disregarded it. She has appropriated our heritage." The finding of the emerald fragment, along with the ITV interview, solidified Charles's suspicion into excruciating certainty. The woman he loved had not only thieved from him, she had conspired, misled, and now openly derided his suffering. On that night, the king remained awake. He gazed into the misty London night, a solitary sovereign ensnared in a self-imposed confinement, anticipating an encounter he recognized would shatter his existence. Section 5. The Mirror Chamber and the Frigid Admission. On the morning of August 21st, 2025, Camilla re-entered Buckingham Palace. Her strides were resolute, resonating on the frigid marble floors as she glided past the crew in silence. She donned a deep blue silk gown, her silver hair impeccably styled her countenance, an inscrutable facade of aristocratic poise. The emerald bracelet was notably missing from her wrist. She proceeded immediately to the mirror room, an opulent and little-used state chamber adorned with large gold-gilded mirrors from the reign of King George II that line the walls. The mirrors reflect infinitely, creating a bewildering crystalline labyrinth. Charles awaited here. He had been present since daybreak, a night devoid of sleep having rendered his looks gaunt. He stood in the room's center, his emaciated form replicated into a myriad of iterations of a beleaguered monarch. His outfit was wrinkled and his eyes were bloodshot. He grasped the emerald fragment in his clenched palm. As the imposing door slammed shut behind Camilla, its sound echoing through the palace's stillness, Charles turned abruptly. His voice, when it emerged, was a resounding expression of anguish and rage. "You have taken it," he charged, his voice faltering. "You acquired the ring. Did you believe you could appropriate my legacy, my mother's legacy, and use it for your own aspirations?" He advanced toward her, his fingers quivering as he raised the shard. "The jewel in the garden, the bracelet you adorned. Did you presume me a fool? Did you believe I would remain oblivious? He was no longer a monarch addressing a consort. He was a man facing the architect of his profoundest betrayal. Edward cautioned me. He gasped. He cautioned me, and I dismissed him to safeguard you. Who assisted you? Who is collaborating with you on this?" Camilla remained still, her demeanor chillingly unwavering. She confronted his angry look not with trepidation or regret, but with a glimmer of bold defiance. She opened her bag slowly and thoughtfully. She removed the Welsh gold ring and set it on an antique wood table positioned between them. The unadulterated Clogau gold shimmered beneath the illumination. Although the center emerald had noticeable damage, a little but discernible fissure disfigured its surface, precisely at the location where the shard would have been positioned. "I merely borrowed it," she said, her tone without any passion. Every phrase was a shard of ice embedded in Charles's heart. "I have suffered enough. I have existed under the influence of Diana, under the influence of Elizabeth, and under the scrutiny of this whole kingdom's judgment. This ring serves as a reminder to you and others that I possess the right to be here. I am not only a consort. I am your peer." Her admission was hardly an expression of remorse. It constituted a rationale, a proclamation of her asserted rights. She recounted the years of public disdain, being branded a homewrecker, and experiencing the sensation of being an incessant substitute. She articulated that seizing the ring was an act of defiance, signifying her refusal to be a mere footnote in the Windsor narrative. Charles gazed at her, his complexion pallid. His complexion paled, and at that instant he seemed decades older. He gradually extended his hand and grasped the ring. His quivering fingers explored the frigid metal and the unsightly fissure in the gemstone. The harm extended beyond the stone. It epitomized the irreparable rift in their marriage, his trust, and the fundamental structure of his existence. "You are no longer the woman I adored," he said, his voice faltering. Unrestrained tears cascaded down his cheeks, intertwining with the anguish of the past and the bleakness of the present. The commitment he had made to his mother to guarantee that Camilla would be recognized only as queen consort now seemed like a poignant failure. Camilla averted her gaze, her silk gown whispering on the frigid stone floor. "You believe you have triumphed, Charles," she said, her tone incisive without turning around. "However, I have made my imprint. This realm shall recall my presence. And that crack," she said, her voice lowering to a near whisper, "the ring can be repaired. However, the one residing in your heart and inside this kingdom shall never exist." She exited her heels, producing a consistent, definitive cadence on the marble. The door shut, isolating Charles in the disorienting labyrinth of mirrors, a fractured monarch clutching a damaged emblem of his sovereignty. Section 6. The Judgment from Balmoral and a Prince's Obligation. The repercussions of the mirror room encounter were immediate and unequivocal. The public, incited by incessant media coverage that resurrected every specter of the 1990s, was split into vehemently opposed factions. Opinion polls revealed a significant decline in Camilla's approval ratings, with a YouGov survey indicating that 55% of the populace now perceives her as untrustworthy and a threat to the monarchy's stability. The hashtag #OurJusticeForDiana trended for several days, symbolizing a digital revival of a national trauma that had never fully healed. The monarchy took measures to mitigate the repercussions. Prince William, well informed about every facet of the scandal, from the manipulated lock to the emerald fragment to Camilla's frigid admission, assumed control. Recognizing that the issue jeopardized his father's reign and the institution's integrity, he responded with a determination reminiscent of his late grandmother's. He summoned an urgent assembly of prominent royals and top officials of the Privy Council. The meeting occurred in complete secrecy at the notorious Balmoral Castle. The fortified manor, inaccessible to the public, served as the location for the monarchy to adjudicate one of its members. In the antiquated wood-paneled conference room, William stood before the gathered individuals. His voice was composed but had an unmistakable gravitas of power. "Camilla has transgressed an irreparable boundary," he said, his eyes surveying the room. "The theft and deliberate destruction of the Welsh gold ring is not just a personal betrayal of my father. This is a direct affront to my grandmother's heritage and poses a significant danger to the stability of the crown. Her deeds must not remain unaddressed." The evidence was presented on the long table security reports, images of Camilla's bracelet, a transcript of Edward's prophetic warning, and a comprehensive narrative of the mirror room showdown. The discussion was intense but controlled. Although others advocated for a more moderate private admonition, the prevailing thought influenced by William was that a public and emphatic declaration was necessary. The ballot was cast. The council, by a substantial majority, recommended that Camilla be divested of the title of Queen Consort, a designation she had audaciously sought to enhance. She would be relegated to the subordinate position of Princess Consort, a designation devoid of constitutional authority or functional responsibility. Moreover, she would be obligated to deliver a formal public apology and assume the whole expense of the ring's repair by the crown jewelers. It constituted a comprehensive and unequivocal banishment from the monarchy's inner circle. That evening, the formal paper was presented to King Charles at Buckingham Palace. He sat solitary in his office, the impaired ring positioned before him on the desk. With a profound sense of sorrow and a hand that trembled slightly, he grasped his pen. While signing the paper, the ink saturating the royal parchment, he was not only a monarch doing his obligation, he was a spouse, formalizing the conclusion of a life-altering love. Upon putting the pen down, Camilla entered the room. Her customary assurance had vanished, replaced with a fragile pride. A solitary little piece of luggage was at her feet. Charles remained seated. His voice was subdued, but it had the chilling, definitive power of the crown. "You have taken the ring, Camilla, and with that you appropriated everything. My trust, the dynasty's integrity, the kingdom's belief. From this day forth you will be known as Princess Consort. You will no longer accompany me at any formal event. The strength you want has gone." Her last utterances in the mirror room reverberated in the stillness. She executed a solitary, decisive nod, pivoted, and exited the room, so departing from his existence as he had previously understood it. The next morning, a wan and quiet Camilla issued a pre-recorded statement on the BBC acknowledging a serious error in judgment and expressing remorse for the distress her actions had caused. Shortly thereafter, she exited discreetly via a side door of the palace, abandoning the life she had struggled for decades to attain. The gates of Balmoral reopened. However, the castle would always be linked to the conspiracy revealed inside its confines. The Welsh gold ring was sent for restoration, its fractured emerald a lasting blemish on the legacy of the House of Windsor. At Buckingham Palace, King Charles III, now an isolated sovereign, presides over a realm that has been starkly reminded that in the realm of crowns and dynasties, love is a tenuous asset, while ambition is a conflagration capable of obliterating all in its wake. Thank you for watching the video. Please let us know your thoughts, and goodbye for now.